Welcome to the third year of Jolene's Book and Writers Talk podcast. We have a lot of fun authors and illustrators and editors and narrators in store for the next episodes for this year. We hope you will like and subscribe and comment to each of our podcasts. It will be available on YouTube as well as the other channels such as Apple, iHeartRadio, and a few more. Check our website if you are an author or in the book biz, as it was, to become a guest. We would welcome you. Just fill out the application and we'll get it started. So, let's, without further ado, let's introduce Miss Casey Dawes.
Hi, my name is Casey Dawes, and I am an author. I have been writing all my life, but I have taken several detours along the way. I got a bachelor's and a master's degree in theater, and then quickly found out I hated going to cattle calls and being rejected. So I became a director so I could tell people what to do, but there aren't a whole lot of jobs for either. I was on, and the only job I could find was in Montana. And so I went and taught 1 year at Eastern Montana College in Billings. I decided to stay and wound up spending 3 years on the Blackfeet Indian Reservation up by Glacier National Park, which is an experience that crops up in many of my books. I will have Native characters coming in and out. I've always felt an affinity to Native characters, Native peoples. And I had the honor back in the 70s of meeting a woman, she must have been in her 80s, Isabella Whitegrass, who was someone who had been taken to one of the boarding schools where we hear so much about these days, and had her hair cut off, and the trauma that she experienced of that. But at some level, we had a connection, and she chatted with me for a couple of minutes, and I was honored by that experience. So most of my books are set in Montana, although with this latest series, the RV Park series, I've started in Montana and done the traveling around that one can do with an RV. The other series I've got going, which is called Promise Cove, is set in a small town, imaginary town on Whitefish Lake up by Glacier National Park. So I'm coming back to the area that I know best. The inspiration for the RV Park series is both my life now and from that time. After I was living in East Glacier Park, population 389, I moved to 42nd and 9th in Manhattan, where the building had somewhat more than 389 people in it. I wound up doing technology. I was a temporary typist. They hired me because I could actually make sense out of some of their gobbledygook. I think it helps that my father was an electrical engineer, and I spent the next 30 years in the tech industry. So my life is a lot of zigs and zags. So I did well there. I ran an international organization, so I got to travel, which was great fun. And I wrote, if you ever need to sleep some night, I wrote a book called Exploring IBM eBusiness Software. I guarantee by the second page, you will be sound asleep. My husband and I also were living in California, and at that point, we did a couple of books on wineries. So that was kind of fun research. My professional life has been very varied. I have a piece of paper that says I'm a life and business coach as well. But my personal life has been rocky. And that also plays in my books. One of my reviewers once said that she thought the author had father issues. And I went, yeah, got that one. Yep. So, as most people with father issues do, or many people, I had trouble getting it right in terms of men to marry or to be with or any of that. My current husband was a doll. In fact, all my old friends kind of looked at me, and when I brought him around and said, she finally got it right. There was abuse in some of the relationships, and the book I had just finished which is the sixth book in the Promised Cove series, does deal with that. The three sisters in the RV Park series are great fun to write because they're strong women and they have opinions and they're kind of matter of fact, which if you've spent time in Montana, you'll find women like that are just kind of, well, it snowed. So now what do? We do X. I have a friend who grew up in Butte. She's Irish Catholic. Butte is heavily Irish because it's a mining town. So a lot of people came there in the 1800s. She read the book and she said, well, you got the Catholic right, you got the Irish right, you got Butte right. So I feel like I've honored.
So I understand you've published 20 romance books. Is that about the average?
I think that's the growing up, grown up second chance was the 20th. Yes.
Okay.
Self-published.
Most of your stuff is what? Medium spicy, clean, wholesome?
It depends on the series. There's a series set in California that's kind of light spicy. Well, Promised Cove is clean.
Okay.
So there's actually, when I was writing it, I found that leaving out the sex was kind of easy. It was leaving out the swearing that gave me a hard time. That's where that theater background comes in. That was actually harder. And Grown Up Second Chance has got some spice. They're earthy women. They say what they think. There's a running gag through it that talks about human beings, and as we age, things don't work quite as well as they used to. And there's also some unresolved issues that the main heroine has from being in high school with her high school boyfriend that come to I think satisfying but somewhat sexy and at the end of the book. That's kind of the level of spice.
How long have you been RVing?
We started out in July of 2020. Pandemic. The prices got too high in Missoula, Montana, which is where we were living. You couldn't afford to rent there anymore. It's a problem the state is facing. And actually, we have found a lot of people on the road who are on the road out of necessity. More than anything else, they can't afford housing. It's very hard for a lot of people, especially on a fixed income. But we made lemonade, and we have had such wonderful experiences traveling around, meeting people, going to a lot of national parks, places they've never seen, going to see our kids, which are on both coasts. So we have to go like this a lot. Really interesting experience this summer. This summer. We stopped at the Badland in South Dakota, stopped at one of the overlooks. And I've got a bad hip. They're actually going to go in and fix it sometime in the next month. So I was sitting in the car. My husband had gone out to the cliff's edge railings and stuff like that. And he looks back at me and he's flapping his arms like he's got a big bird. And I am a photographer. I take a lot of pictures for people who are on my Facebook site or my Instagram site. You'll see a lot of the pictures I've taken. I get my camera out and I'm charging there. And this very long, tall, lanky man, native, he'd been standing looking down at the ground. He comes kind of loping over and says, "Can you take my picture?" I'm like, "Sure." I'm sure the bird's long gone. So he hands me his phone and he goes back to where he was standing and I took his picture. And he comes back over and it's kind of dark, which I knew it would be because he was backlit. But he then started talking about how he had been watching the anthill. And it was something that his native people have a way of telling a story. So it's like, my uncle was telling me, is how it started, that you see the ants and they'll be marching up the hill in a straight line. And then on the side, you'll see other ants and they're kind of going back and forth and all in circles. But eventually they get to the top in the hole. The ants are kind of like people. We all have our different ways of going places, but we all get there in the end. And it was like, okay, random story in the middle of nowhere.
So I was wondering, did you ever work camp? Do you ever work?
No, we've known people who do it, but my husband does web development.
Okay.
And I've been editing other people's work as well as doing my own books. Mm-hmm. So it's like we have a job. We just travel around instead of doing like work camping. Periodically, I think about, staying in Yellowstone or something like that. But I'm okay with it. I'd rather see more. I mean, living in Montana, the first time around, I was next to Glacier National Park. So I spent like 3 years there. It changed a lot. And we spent several long camping trips in Yellowstone. So I feel like I'm seeing that part of the country. We also spent a week in the Grand Tetons, which was lovely. We find the East Coast. God bless all of you out there, but it's a little hot and humid for us. Even though we were both raised on the East Coast. It's
right. Have you been up to Alaska? Taking the trek
up the one state. I've been to 49 states. Alaska is the one we haven't been at. We toyed with the idea of doing it next year, but finances wouldn't let us. So
it's a fur trek, and the roads are not that good, from what I understand from other RVers out there. It's only certain times, and you got to stay on certain roads, or you'll be pothole city. You park your thing and take a cruise ship up during summer.
Right, and they also have ferries you can take your RV on, and we actually have a 23-foot trailer, so we're in a very, very small rig. I think it's a bit like Montana in some ways, that people that go there and get into the culture really like it.
Well, I have a question about Montana, actually, mystery writers. I know you write romance, so you probably don't know those people, but...
Well, there's quite a few mystery writers up there. Probably the most famous is Lee Child. He lives in Missoula. Cat Martin, who's romantic suspense, lives up there. B.J. Daniels, also romantic suspense. A couple of cozy mystery writers. So there's a good mystery group. I'm not sure that there's a mystery organization anymore. I was part of the very, very short-lived Montana chapter of the Romance Writers of America. The biggest problem with Montana is it's our, small town with long roads. Right. So we were scattered all over the place. So it was very hard to get anybody together. And you know organizations, you've lived long enough to know that organizations, it doesn't matter what they're for, there's always a small group of people that do everything.
Right.
And I think what RWA was trying to do was to make sure that more people were involved, but by doing so and changing their rules, they killed off a lot of chapters like ours that were just not ever going to be much bigger than they were. Yes, I had a wonderful experience. There used to be a conference called, it wasn't an RWA contest, it was another one, our conference. Anyway, I went and I was sitting and reading one of Delilah Marvel's books. She writes Regency, and she was there, and she comes over, I've never seen anybody reading one of my books. Come join us. It's like, okay.
Yes, you never know. There's a lot of us on TikTok. Encourage each other. We talk about our writing in our books. There's one in Vegas that's real popular.
20 books.
Yeah. It just finished. I've seen a lot of TikToks about that. Looked like fun. That'll be something to do in the future.
Yep. It's kind of on my list. We almost went this year, but things were just too hectic this year. But Becca Sim, who does a lot of work with writers on Enneagram. I don't know if you know what Enneagram is. It's a type of personality chart, but she's done a lot of work with writers on that, and she was there speaking, as well as Brian Cullen, who does a lot of work with ads for authors.
Yeah, I've seen some of his videos.
So there's things people I'd like to meet again or see. I watch a lot of TikTok. I've got a couple of videos out there, but I really, on my list for next year is to do a couple of things. One is to start a Patreon channel, and the other is to do more TikTok, which kind of dovetails naturally with that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, I want to get some better equipment, because right now I'm kind of, as you can see, with a window behind me with a black curtain on it, which is actually the black curtain keeps light out. So I need to work in there. So I'd like to do a little more with that.
What do you do besides writing as a hobby?
As a hobby, I am a knitter. I am a quilter. I am a spinner with a hand spindle.
Really?
One of my fans who's becoming a good friend, she's up in Buffalo. We met when we were up there in Buffalo, New York area. And she has a little electric spinner that she's trying to convince me to buy. But it looks cute. It's just noisy. So actually, it's not that one. I'm looking at that. But yes, that's primarily what I do. Where I'm at right now, I have a swimming pool. I love to swim. And then, of course, we explore. And I take pictures. I'll go out and take pictures of birds and stuff like that. We're kind of casual birders. There's a bird around, we're going to look, but I've got friends that are actual, avid birders. We're not that. There was a cute little road runner that runs around here. I have a hummingbird feeder on my window. When we were in Oklahoma this year, I did get to see a swallowtail flycatcher, which is just beautiful. And then we were going to Organ Pike National Park last year, and my husband made me turn around. I was driving. We got to go back. There's a bird. And I'm like, okay. So turns out to be a caracara. We'd never seen. It was one of the birds he'd always wanted to see. So he was happy.
All that is perfect fodder for TikTok as well as Instagram. You can take quick little videos of all you little birds and say, this is the bird we saw today. This is the bird we saw today.
But it's just a different mindset. I haven't quite got there yet.
You're going to get it. You got so much potential out there. I knitted this today. You want to engage as a person, a well-rounded person. Don't talk all about books. Try not to talk about politics. That'll just get...
Yeah.
But birding is a fun thing, and pictures and I noticed on Thread today and Instagram, all the pictures of fall colors. Gorgeous places all around the world. And I just love them because they're red and yellow and orange. The Swiss mountains. I can't believe some of the pictures people get at that place. Does it really look like that?
Yeah, it does. I've been very, very blessed in being able to do a significant amount of travel on other people's time, which is the only way to travel.
Absolutely.
So when I was running that technical organization, I spent a lot of time in Europe, Paris and Berlin and Barcelona. And I even went to Europe for a weekend once, took my backpack because I had to go. I actually won a trip to Australia. And then I got to go again after that because I was president of the organization, and met a dear friend. We met at a coat rack where I was turning in my umbrella. She and I had stayed friends. This was back in the 90s. She and her husband had come over. We've had grand old times. Occasionally we'll get on Facebook and natter at each other, her words. A lot of experiences. It was very much fun.
Well, we're friendly. We don't know each other, but we leave comments for each other. A couple of New Zealand authors. Lady shows her dog in Altera, New Zealand stuff. And her walk.
Got a cat lying over there.
Perfect fodder. More, take some videos of your cat.
He has to move.
No, actually, you really don't. Just as long as they swish their tail, you can throw a quote up there from your book. There you go. Marketing and interest. All right. Well, I look forward to more videos on TikTok as soon as I find it.
I'll work on
it. Well, now that you can do photographs on TikTok, you can upload a photograph and make it shimmer and shake and throw a quote from one of your books or the day or whatever. That's a TikTok. People like it. Yep. It's under 10 seconds. On the road as an author, what seems to be your biggest challenge as an author on the road?
It varies. Some days it's getting the words done, although I try and do that first thing in the morning. Attending all the little details. I mean, there's ads, there's Amazon ads, there's Facebook ads, there's social media, there's Pinterest, there's all the stuff you do for a launch, there's all the stuff you do for a promotion sale, there's TikTok. I mean, there's learning, because it's constantly changing. So I would say some days I can't get the words done, and that's usually when we're driving or doing something like that. But it's mostly being able to keep up on all the little things that need to get done, and yet still having time to listen to a video or, learn how to do those quick little videos for TikTok. I mean, that takes kind of a mind space that I don't always have in the afternoon, because that's how my mind works. I'm really great until about 1:00 in the afternoon, and then I can do routine tasks.
Because writing does not take up any space, so that's not a problem in your little trailer. As long as you got internet, you can always upload your books when you're done with them.
That's sometimes another problem. People that say RV parks that say they have internet, it's questionable what they mean by internet, but we have hotspots and we'll use that. The only place that
well, I know a lot of people have two different ones, Verizon and AT&T, because they're on different network. If you have one, you might not have the other. Sometimes you have both if you're in a city.
We have AT&T, and we haven't had a problem with it, except for the Badlands, and nobody got service in the Badlands.
True enough. There ain't no service out there. Okay, another question is, have you noticed while you're on the road, are there more RV parks popping up in your neighborhoods as you're traveling?
We very rarely go to the same place twice. I mean, we come to the place we like in Tucson. We go to the place we have to go in Montana. We don't like it particularly, but we need to be near our stuff so we can go look at it and wonder why we still have it. We like traveling to different roads, so we don't go back and forth. What we have found is that RV parks in the West are very different from RV parks in the East. A couple of things, I think and this might be true in Florida as well, but there's more 55 and older places. And when we came through Ohio last year, it was really prevalent, but in summertime in particular, East Coast RV parks are very, very family oriented. They have family reunions, and it almost feels like summer camp. And the other thing is fire. Out in the West, we're very, very conscious of campfires and where they are and getting them out.
Right.
And the East Coast doesn't have that same philosophy. People would build gigantic bonfires and then not watch them. It was the oddest thing to us and very kind of disturbing.
Doesn't have it in our state parks. They don't allow it. I mean, they have prescribed burns, and they have certain times of the year that nobody can have pit fires at all. If you're in a state camp, you have to have a fire pit, the metal one, and everything has to stay in there. Park rangers will get you if you don't. You got to pay attention.
Yeah, and of course, everything back east tends to be older and more cramped because there just isn't enough space. I mean, here there's land, people can put a decent-sized RV park on the East Coast. I mean, some of those roads, even bringing a trailer down some of those roads gets interesting because they're small, made for wooden cars.
This is so true. But I'll tell you, they have been making more and more parks, RV parks, around because people can't afford to live in the cities. The houses, the rent, ridiculous.
Yeah, like I said, that's what drove us out of Missoula was the rents and I was working like 3 jobs plus Social Security and stuff like that.
If you're planning a sequel, can you share a tiny bit about the plans for it?
Okay, well, it happens that I'm a quarter of the way through the sequel. The first one is Diane's story. She's the oldest sister. This one is Liz's story. And Liz is very big on secrets. She has a personal secret. She's an artist, and she will not share her artwork with her sisters. Funny, it took me a long time to figure out why she wouldn't do that. I mean, the obvious answer was she was painting erotic stuff, but that's not it. And the title of the second one is Her Son's Secret Father. So that gives you an idea about one of her secrets and how it all comes together, because why not? So I'm having fun. It takes place actually in the Hudson River Valley, which is one of my favorite places. A couple of times this last year, we've seen the Thomas Cole art. When I was in graduate school, that's where I learned about the Hudson Valley School of Art, and in a class that took place right after lunch. And they turned out the lights. It was amazing. I'd stayed awake for that one. Anyway, so Thomas Cole, and they had Frederick Church's big house there. We went to see that this year. But it's a very lovely style of painting, almost like if you think of Impressionists and that focus on light. The Hudson River Valley is also focused on light. And she's an artist, so I get to play with that. So, yes. So that's where they are. They're still in their RV. They still haven't killed each other. They're still making observations about the things you got to do in an RV and the people that kind of populate RV parks. I mean, it's an interesting mix. If you take out the families that kind of go in summertime, there's people who are working, like you said, work camp people, and there's people who, we had a couple next to us here in Tucson that were bikers, not motorcycle, bike, and they're
Pedaling bikes,
like in the early 60s. They were up every day biking around all of Tucson. I mean, they were gone from like 8 a.m. till like 3 p.m. You know, there's people that kind of hang out here. We got some pool players. It's interesting. So anyway, that's where we are. We're in an RV park in the Hudson Valley. Find out about her son's secret father and a few others. Okay. But there's a guaranteed happily ever after.
Gotta have that. That's required. In Arizona, have you been to where all the RVers hang out, dry camping?
We're both introverts, so we don't like hang around with lots and lots of people. It's probably why the East Coast is such a chore for us. The other thing is we kind of like our creature comfort. We like our internet. We like our cable when we can get it. Like I said, I like to swim, so swimming pool, electricity. And we're not real rough it kind of people.
To each his own. Okay, have you been to a hot air balloon festival, though? I know they do that a lot out west.
Yeah, they do that in New Mexico, in Albuquerque, I think is the big.
Okay.
No, I haven't done that one. I'm telling you about my friends from Australia. They had come one year. We were living in California, and we went to Paso Robles. We were staying in a vineyard.
Okay.
And I got up one morning to have my coffee. I'm sitting out on the porch, and this big hot air balloon comes drifting over the vineyard. I mean, it was plastic. Could have been out of any kind of movie.
Alrighty, is there anything that you would like to tell writers? What would be your top 2 tips? Top 2 or 3 tips you would give new writers just starting out?
Write more than you think you should. Keep at it, because like anything else, the more you do it, the better you get. And the other would be believe in the story you have to tell, because everybody has a unique story. Criticism can get hard. So if you have a belief in your own story, that your own story needs to be told in whatever manner you're going to do it, whether it's poetry or dark fantasy or whatever medium you use, just keep telling.
Very good advice. Are you traditionally published or indie published?
I was published by Crimson Romance first, small press. Crimson Romance got bought by Simon & Schuster. Simon & Schuster kept them around for a year and then closed them out. So I took all my rights back, and I've got a tech background. I can indie publish, so I've been indie published. All my books are indie published now.
Okay. Are you with the KU conglomerate, or are you trying to get away from that?
It's an interesting question. Primarily, I've been with KU because that's where I was making money. It took me a long while to get there because I just don't like monopoly. So I finally got there, and this latest go round, they keep cutting prices, and people are debating whether to go wide. Or I have another pen name that writes much more spicy stuff. And that pen name is totally wide. I have taken the California book series out of KU because it's my oldest series. I need to redo the covers, and then I'm going to port that over to Drafted Digital as well. So that will then be why. I'm going to just do it like I do pretty much everything. We just take a step, evaluate, take another step and evaluate.
So are you buying your own ISBNs or are you using the ones they provide?
I'm using theirs. I started out buying my own. The only ones I have bought ISBNs for it's Ingram Spark. Ingram Spark will publish your books or put them on there, have your book on their list. So if somebody goes into Barnes and Noble, they can order my book.
Drafted Digital does the same thing. They take your book and they put it through Ingram Spark.
Right. So I just have them separate because I started with Ingram Spark.
I just been publishing with them for me and my clients for the last 2 years. And the only thing I can say that they do better is the hardback copy, because you can get really fancy if you wanted to do like a box set, or if you're a fantasy author and you want to put pictures on pages and that sort of thing. Ingram is probably the only one that really does that. But it took me a year to figure out how to get the books to upload so they wouldn't deny. Oh my gosh.
Well, the Smashwords when it started out was no great fun either.
Oh yeah, you had to, and they're still like that, by the way. Still have to have Word 97. They won't take anything else.
Now you just go through Drafted Digital and put it there. I mean, Mark, what is his name? I met him once. The guy that owns Smashwords or owned it. I don't know if he's still there, but lovely man, very techy, very techy. So, he lives outside of Silicon Valley, and he's like, yeah, I know your type. You're an engineer. I would say one thing that Smashwords did do is it taught me how to format really, really well. I learned to make a very clean document.
With Drafted Digital, that's what I do. I take everything out. The margins, I just set the margins and do the chapter headings, the bookmark as a heading. That's it. Everything else is just plain, and I upload it to Drafted Digital, and they make the ebook, and then the paperback. One of my clients qualified for their new program with Apple to do audiobooks, the AI.
Oh, I don't know about that one.
They just started it this month. Not everybody qualifies, but I listen to the voices. You only have male or female, soprano or baritone. But I listened to the voice all the way through, and it sounded just like one of the narrator friends that I have. It takes 30 days for them to render an audio version of your book, as long as your ebook is clean. So I won't know if the quality is good so we're experimenting. I mean, because they're only charging like price for the book on Apple is going to be like $5, and the most that you can charge is $7 for that kind of thing. And they're sending it to Overdrive. So it'll be Apple and Overdrive. The Overdrive will get into the library.
Yeah, I haven't done audiobooks yet because the cost is so prohibitive. And I do have people that have asked for them. So I know the market's there. But just in 2011, I pretty much lost everything through that recession that came before. We've been, as I said to the hip doctor, we have this much margin in our lives. So,
all right. So the next time you're on Drafted Digital, check the audio. It's on Apple. They may let you try it if you want.
Yeah, good to know.
Is there anything that you would like to wrap up and tell prospective readers about your books, or writers about their writing journey?
I would like to let readers know that if you haven't discovered Promise Cove yet, the 6th book is coming out. My beta readers are thrilled. It's taking people like 1 day to read it. They are very thrilled. Available, and the next one for the grown-up second chance should be out sometime around the end of March. Check them out and enjoy. And I love hearing from my readers and chatting with them and getting to know them. And if I'm in their area, I love a cup of coffee.
Thank you so much. Not everything's going to make it on the podcast, but
I just thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'm happy with whatever happens.
All right. All righty, my dear. Safe travels. Stay healthy.
Yes.
Write lots of stuff.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did recording it. Casey Dawes is a wonderful guest, and she gave us a lot of good
information, and I wish her luck in all of her publishing pursuits and safety out there while she's traveling. If you are a published author, we hope you will join us at southerndragonpublishings.com and fill out the application and become a guest. Now, we want to talk to writers, of course, narrators, book designers, as well as anybody else that has anything to do with the book business that wants to share their story. And check out the website, and we'll see you next time.